Iran, where we have spent this past week, is a country of immense significance to the United States. Her oil reserves, second largest in the world, the $15 billion worth of sophisticated American arms that she possesses, her strategic position in the Persian Gulf, all this means that when there is trouble in Iran, that is trouble for the United States.
If I showed you footage of 1970s Tehran, women in miniskirts, co-ed university campuses, Hollywood films playing in these packed movie theaters, discos and nightclubs, ski resorts in the mountains, American cars, filling multi-lane highways, you might assume it was Southern Europe, or LA, or Miami Beach. But it wasn't. Not ancient Persia, not 100 or 1,000 years ago, 1970s Iran. So what happened? Because the Iran most people picture today looks nothing like that. And here's the deeper question running through this entire video. Is Iran's past starting to become its future again? In the 1960s, Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi launched what he called the White Revolution. Land reform, nationalization of forests, worker profit sharing, a literacy corps sending educated youth into villages. Then you had women's suffrage in 1963, and the goal of all of this? Modernize Iran at full speed. After the 1973 oil crisis, oil prices skyrocketed. Iran became one of the largest oil exporters in OPEC. GDP growth was through the roof, hit double digits in some years. Tehran transformed almost overnight. High-rises, factories, airports, luxury imports, Western brands everywhere. The Shah envisioned an Iran that was a regional superpower. And economically, it looked like it was succeeding. But here's the first why. Why would rapid growth create instability instead of stability? Because modernization wasn't gradual. It was explosive. It felt like it was overnight. And when institutions, cultures, and political systems don't evolve at the same pace as the economy, pressure builds beneath the surface. Growth without structural balance creates fracture points. Iran was technically a constitutional monarchy. In reality, the Shah ruled with a strong centralized authority. Iran was secular, it was pro-Western, it was a close United States ally. But dissent was suppressed by Savak, the secret police. Political opposition was tightly controlled.
That has happened in Iran during the last quarter of century. We had the worst repression known in the history.
You mean that the repression, the torture, the cruelty of the Savak under
the regime during the last 25 years
has been worse than
anywhere in the world. And you have to add to that the corruption, which was on a scale never.
And here's the critical structural tension. Modernization expanded education. Education expands expectation. And expectations expand demand for participation. So by the 1970s, Iran had a growing middle class and university population, but political liberalization didn't keep pace. So why does that even matter? What does that even mean? Because economic freedom without political voice creates resentment, not loyalty. That tension doesn't disappear, it slowly accumulates until it comes to a head. In cities like Tehran, Shiraz, Isfahan, daily life felt modern and outward-facing. Women voted. Women worked as judges and doctors and diplomats and pilots, and 1/3 of university students were female. The hijab was optional, not mandatory. Fashion magazines flourished, nightlife was booming, families vacationed on the Caspian Sea, ski resorts in the north were packed. It looked like a country integrating into a global system. But here's the second why. Why did this visible modernization provoke backlash. Because the modernization was very uneven. Urban Iran accelerated, rural Iran lagged far behind. Traditional communities felt dislocated and disenfranchised. So rapid westernization, especially when it's perceived as like top-down and elite-driven, can feel like cultural displacement. When identity feels threatened, modernization stops feeling like progress. It starts feeling like erasure. And a tale as old as time, right? Oil money changed everything, but oil wealth also distorted the economy. Inflation surged in the late 70s, housing shortages intensified, rural migration overwhelmed cities. The wealth gap widened dramatically. And I mean dramatically. The elite enjoyed luxury goods and imports, while the everyday person struggled with rising costs of living. Why is inequity especially dangerous during growth? Because when prosperity is visible, but not shared, frustration intensifies faster than in flat economies. Revolutions often begin not in total poverty, but in rising expectations that go unmet. And by 1978, protests were nationwide. The Shah fled in 1979. Ayatollah Khomeini returned. The Islamic Republic replaced the monarchy. This wasn't just a leadership change. It was a civilizational pivot. Iran flipped from pro-Western monarchy to Islamic terrorist-driven revolutionary state. Geopolitically, it shaped the Middle East. The Iran-US alliance collapsed. The hostage crisis entrenched hostilities. The Iran-Iraq war destabilized the region for many years. And support for proxy groups across Lebanon, Iraq, Syria, and Gaza redefined regional politics. And here's the long-term ripple. The modern Middle East, including tensions involving Israel, Hamas, Hezbollah, and even the United States-Iran standoffs, cannot be understood without 1979. The revolution didn't just change Iran, it restructured global geopolitics. Look at the pattern here. Rapid modernization, uneven distribution of wealth, political repression, cultural alienation, institutional legitimacy cracks. That combination produced 1979. Now fast forward to today. The Islamic Republic itself has faced mass protests in recent years, economic crisis and sanctions pressure, expanding dissatisfaction with the clerical rule, declining trust in state institutions, and we're not even talking about the events of the past week. And now, just a couple days ago, the death of the supreme leader Khomeini has triggered a fragile leadership transition. The regime's institutional backbone remains, particularly the Revolutionary Guard, and I don't expect that to last very long, but the structure is collapsing. So here's the question. Are we watching a mirror image of the 1970s? Not identical, but structurally similar? In the 70s, modernization outpaced political legitimacy. Now today, ideology may be outpacing generational legitimacy. In the 70s, inequality and repression fueled rupture. Today, economic strain and political rigidity fuel unrest. And the irony? The Islamic Republic rose as a reaction to westernization. And now many younger Iranians openly question that system itself. They're drawn to the Western world. History rarely repeats itself perfectly, but structural pressures do rhyme. And if 1979 was the collapse of monarchy under accumulated pressure, the question now is whether the Islamic Republic faces its own accumulated strain. Two things can be true, right? The Shah's modernization brought visible freedoms and rapid growth, and it created structural imbalances that triggered its own collapse. The Islamic Republic brought ideological cohesion to some, and it's generated its own long-term instability. The lesson isn't nostalgia, it's structural awareness. When modernization outruns legitimacy, when identity feels overridden, when inequality widens, when political voices feel constrained, societies just don't adjust. over time they begin to rupture. So the real question isn't, was Iran better before 1979? But you can argue that in the comments. The real question is, what happens when the same structural forces that once reshaped a nation begin resurfacing under a different regime? Is Iran's past becoming its future? And if it is, what does that mean not just for Tehran, but what does it mean for Israel? What does it mean for Ukraine, for US-Iran tensions, for global energy markets, and for Middle Eastern stability? Because if Iran stands at another hinge moment, the ripple effect won't stop at its borders. It'll be worldwide. All right, you guys, thank you for watching. Have an amazing day. Don't forget to like and subscribe, all that good stuff. God bless. Goodbye. Take care. Auf Wiedersehen.